Then see, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me the songs of Mother Goddess and of Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between because we can. And it's Saturday night, and I hope y'all are having just a lovely weekend as the world is slowly returning to normal. Emphasis on slow. And it kind of depends on what your definition of normal is, too. Um, so we are being broadcast live tonight on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And if you're listening in over on YouTube World, make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button and the little bell thingy. It's over here somewhere to, get alerts when I do go live. So for those of you who are new to the channel, and then no matter how you are hearing me, make sure you stop in and say hello, either in a chat room or by sending me an email at wildepaisley@gmail.com. And that's It's Wild Paisley, yes. WILDEPAISLEY@gmail.com. Sorry, I took the mini-me to the local water park, and even though I didn't swim because of my toe, chlorine is horrible. My eyes are just all gooey, so can't think. I don't know why it's connected to my brain that way, but yeah, I can't think because my eyes are icky. Anyways, if you want to support the show, please do so. You can go to etsy.com/Monarch Mountain Studio. That's MTN. Or you can go to patreon.com/The Spaces Between. So yes, come check it out. And then looks like YouTube or call lines are open tonight. So that's 213-233-3998. Or if you're across the pond in the UK, 44203-393-2871. So yes, actually, pharmacy, I'm not allowed to soak my toe yet because they removed part of the toenail, and I have to give it a couple more days. And yeah, it's feeling better, but I keep bumping it. You know how when you stub your toe and it hurts? Kind of like, if you bite your tongue or your lip or something, you keep doing it. And it is just frustrating. Very, very frustrating because about the time I think I'm okay, I stub it. And it's been the dog has stepped on it, the kid has stepped on it. But I ran into the car today. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's just one of those things. So yeah, good times, right? Good times. Looks like in chat we've got Lucky and Lawrence, TFSN. Mm-hmm. And then looks like we are also busy on the YouTube side. We got Bomber, Elaine, Ethan, I am Pam, Lewis, MCAT, Renee, Pharmacy Seeds, Titan, and YTFP. Chris, I don't know what that is. I said hello to some other people too. Titan, Renee, Lewis. Yeah, I try to say hello as y'all come in, but sometimes I am just not that talented. So, yeah. Pain strike. Yeah, pain strike. Yes. Actually, no. The pain strike was when they put the needle in to put the numbing stuff in. Yeah. Yeah, that was... Yeah. Yeah. Normally I don't mind watching the needle go into something like that because it's just like, no, you're going to get it done and move on. Yeah, no, not this time. Because he kept... Nope. It was bad. It was bad. So Mr. Don Longbeard is not here quite yet. He actually got to leave the house and is no longer social distancing from Brent Thomas, and so they're both on Paranormal Portal. and yeah, they had a good time. I would show you who is in Don's seat, but here, I'll show you on YouTube. Transition, yep, there's nothing there. Actually, there's a dog in that seat. You just can't see it because he's sleeping. So yes, Don escaped the basement. And so I was kind of wondering what to talk about tonight, because we had a really good show last night, a great interaction from you guys in chat, and it was good. It was just a good show. We talked about some of the benefits of grounding, and also we talked about Reiki, energy healing and energy work, and that was good. And I love Reiki. I think it's awesome. And so in just energy work in general, it's just really powerful. Seeds and Naysay both called in last night, so that was awesome. You guys did great. Thank you. And it was good. And so it's like, all right, so now what do I talk about? And I figured, well, okay, so what's some common fears among pagans or witches and such? And it's like, all right, so what's going on? I actually came across something really bizarre to me, because I never would have thought that it was a thing. It's a Wiccaphobia. Did you know that was a real thing? Wiccaphobia. Basically, it's a fear of witchcraft. And, it used to be, something really common back in, say, the 17th century, that kind of thing, or the 14th century to the 17th century, during the Inquisition. And it was very, very common throughout, Christian Europe and the United States, just because, they were afraid of witches. So it's Wiccaphobia. It's a legit thing. And so generally speaking, today, in our society today, in most countries, pagans and witches do have religious freedoms, but there are still a lot of fears. And they've decided that, Wiccaphobia is connected to xenophobia, or a fear of those who are different. And it's like, no kidding. And not so much, I don't know, it's just, they're kind of just afraid of witchcraft. But it's back in ancient Salem. So, the burning times, which began in, I think it was 1487, with the release of the Malleus Maleficarum, or the witch's hammer. And basically it was a detailed how-to on how to convict and kill a witch. Yeah. So it was really popular in Europe and such, and which, just, anyway, so basically, the burning times, when mass hysteria, witchcraft fever, anti-witchcraft fever. So it was just misunderstandings generally, for those very, very conservative Christians that were just afraid of things like nature religions, natural religions, or earth religions, spirituality that was not Christianity or that they didn't understand, science. There's a time of a lot of fear, and then with plagues and droughts and disease and such, everybody wanted to point the finger even then, but they had less information than we do now. We still point fingers. We just don't go out and drown people for it. So, but anyways, as education improved in a little bit, the hysteria decreased. But there's still Wiccaphobia. It's a real thing. And so they actually have therapists out there that treat Wiccaphobia. And I'm not trying to make light of it, but at the same time, seriously. But basically, your therapist may ask you questions like, does your church teach you that witchcraft is a sin? Are you afraid that you might be a witch? And why are you afraid of it? Do you believe witches have the power to cause harm? Just so if it's a religious basis, so your therapist may recommend spiritual counseling to, offset some of that religious fear. But often if you go to your the leader of your church for that religious counseling who's been telling you that witches are bad and crazy and, that's where your fear came from. Well, I just, sometimes I read things and all I can think is like, WTF? Really? What? No, that can't be real. Are you? No. But it's a thing. And so, how do you fight wiccaphobia? Well, education. Be open-minded when people ask you about witchcraft or paganism. And, maybe suggest some good books to read. Because being a pagan, to me, is being spiritual. Oh, gosh. I missed something. Yeah, there's people are just going, y'all are goofy in the chat room. I don't often look over there because y'all are just kind of squirrel moments. Anyways, so yeah, just those fears, they're real, and I get it. People are afraid of things they don't understand. Period. And often that fear prevents them from doing the research or educating themselves to find, information to get, alleviate the fear and make themselves better and less stressed about something. Generally, that's what you should do. But yeah, sometimes that fear is real, or maybe they don't have the resources available or the time available to really educate themselves on paganism and other thought processes, because in the root of it really is fear. So distraculate, yes, because there's a lot of fear out there, and they still want to point fingers, because often when you are pointing fingers saying it's not my fault, it's your fault or his fault or her fault or their fault or whatever, you're not taking the blame on yourself, meaning you're not responsible for the outcome. Maybe you contributed to the information or the situation, but it's not my fault. You're saying I have no blame here. Everybody else made their own choices. And yes, absolutely. People make their own choices, their own decisions. They do their own thing. Yes. However, if you contribute to the problem, yes, you are at fault. So, and if you have the ability to help the situation, that means that it is your responsibility to educate yourself so you're not part of the problem. Pretty straightforward, one would think. Maybe not. Should be. Really, it should be, because there's so much information out there. You do your research, do some studying. Almost every library has information on paganism and witchcraft. If you can't go to the library to get some information, there's lots of stuff online. Just be careful of what you're looking at, because, as you look up, how to cast a spell, you're just as likely to get something from World of Warcraft as you are from Harry Potter, or actually getting real information. So just be aware of what you're doing. And the information you're getting. So, as you're reading through it, if you see the sources for some other, like a video game, RPG type game, then often that means the information may not be as legitimate or as helpful as it could be. So I also read an article I thought was kind of interesting. It was based on, it's from pathos.com, which is just a good site in general. I like going to Pathos. I have a couple of friends that write there. And the article is titled, "What is it about paganism that scares Christians?" And That's a good question, because they're they shouldn't be afraid of Christians shouldn't be afraid of witchcraft. They really shouldn't, but that may be a religious thing rather than a faith or spirituality thing. So now, a lot of Christians are not scaredy cats or afraid to be around people who are pagans or Wiccans or witches, because they're comfortable enough in their own faith that they really don't need to, or they don't feel threatened, I guess, by anybody who doesn't follow Christianity. And Chris, yes, and no, at the same time. That's a whole nother conversation, probably. Yeah, I don't know if we'll get there. Remind me. Lucky is right. If they were true to their faith, they wouldn't be scared. They wouldn't feel that threat. Oh no, pagan roots have been around pre-Christian. They've been around for a long, long time, even before Rome. And then a lot of Christians feel that paganism and witchcraft, it's just a modern fad. It's not that big a deal. It's make-believe, and they don't take it seriously. And it's not real, so they don't believe, and they just it's you're going through a phase, and you'll come out of it. And no, not really. So, it's the question basically was, it was specifically asking Christians who take witchcraft and paganism seriously, and who project evil onto pagans and paganism, tend to respond to it with fear and hostility. So why? Well, in part because they may be more literalistic in their faith or their Christian path, and they may be more of a dualist, meaning black and white. So they only see Yahweh, their God, is good, and devil is bad, and anybody who is not Yahweh must be the devil. Period. And everybody who's been around knows that Yahweh and the devil are locked in the cosmic struggle and all that stuff. Well, that's anyways. I'm trying not to distract myself, but I could really, really easily. But Christians often do relate in some way, shape, or form to paganism, and to other religions, but they do it in a way that is consistent to their own internal belief structure and their own faiths, and so people or Christians who do relate to paganism in a positive way generally have a really firm sense that Yahweh, or their God, is a loving God and has a willingness to accept diversity, and that's a good thing, because their God should accept diversity. But those who are dismissive or skeptical are more of a cultural type of Christian, and their faith is more of a social or convention rather than spiritual. So meaning they're the social drinkers, if you will. And then those who are afraid of or hostile, those with wiccophobia, may actually be afraid of their own God, of their own Yahweh, and they may feel that the whole fire and brimstone thing is a legitimate, real thing, and so they can't. They feel that maybe the only way to earn God's love is by being good. They are socially conformists, obedient to their specific church, and you have to curry God's favor, because if you don't, He's going to be abusive and monstrous to you instead. And so those Christians that are, that do have the wiccophobia often also fear Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Judaism. So it's just, they don't just fear witchcraft, they fear everything. And often those folks don't really think about other religions, and it doesn't even cross their mind, which tells me they need to take a comparative religion class or comparative theology class, because that's important. And Naysay is right. The challenge of claiming a label is having to accept others are more likely to have their own interpretation of such labels. Yeah. Um, yes. 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 Um, Lucky's getting wound up in the chat room. um, so there's if you just do some basic research, if you do have Wiccaphobia, or ask a pagan, um, you know, just a lot of that fear will go away. Honestly, because yeah, it's education is often the biggest tool or weapon against fear. So if you're afraid of something, educate yourself, because regardless of your spiritual path, whether you're pagan or Wiccan, or you believe in witchcraft, or maybe you're a druid or Buddhist, or any of those, there's going to be people out there who do approach you, and if they're saying, "Oh, I'm going to pray for you," I that's actually probably my least favorite statement I've ever heard. But I try to take it or accept it in the spirit that it was given, because they're coming from an authentic place, hopefully, and they just want something good for you, or they are trying to give you happy thoughts, or the give you some more love, that kind of thing. And so I try really, really to just accept that in the spirit that was given. It's like, oh, thank you. You don't have to do that. I have had people say, "Oh, I'm going to pray for you." It's like, well, I'm pretty pagan, so you don't have to, if you don't want to. If you have other things you can do at that time, that might be better for you. So I give it back to them. It's like, hey, that may be something better, a better way to spend your time doing something else. Because you know what? Yeah. I don't need that energy. Thank you. So, you can also always say, you know what? I just see things differently than you do, or I just believe things differently than you do, and I just don't have time right now. So I think we have to agree to disagree on our beliefs. Lucky says, "Yeah, don't pray for me. I'm trying to quit." And it's in many ways, just so you know, as a pagan and a witch, spell work is very similar to a prayer. It's a similar concept. You're petitioning often the energy or the energies that you work with to do something. So if you're doing a ritual specifically, spell work, depending on what you're doing, if you're adding components, there's some similarities there. So yes, Titan, you are absolutely right. We do get to better places through conversation. If they're willing to break bread and talk with you, or talk with those who do practice the craft, or have other beliefs, they're going to find that they have more in common than they don't. And yeah, that's real. Because if you can sit down and just communicate reasonably, and I don't mean shouting to see who's loudest, but communicate, with just conversation without raising your voice, that kind of thing, then, you're going to come from a better place to try to share your ideas and your thoughts and everything. Hey, before we go to break, hey, you guys want to see the picture of the dog?
Getting evicted?
Yeah, he's getting evicted. There he is. Old dog. Not moving very fast.
Oh, really?
He didn't move at all that time.
Come on. Yeah. Thank you.
So, so yeah. Anyways, just when people approach you who have different beliefs, different thoughts, that kind of thing, different belief patterns, accept them and acknowledge them and the energy they give you. Just accept it in the spirit that was given. Don't use it to start an argument or cause a fight or fight with someone. That's just not worth the energy. So we are at the bottom of the hour and we're about to go to break. And make sure you do check us. Check out the Patreon. Send me an email if you have any questions. That's wildepaisley@gmail.com. We'll see you right in a couple minutes. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between because we can. Go between. Look between the lines. Read between the lines. It's good for you. Suppose I could turn Don's microphone on. So yeah, he's eating, so I'm not going to turn the camera on yet. So, what is Paisley, Julia? What is Julia asked me a question. What's next weekend?
The weekend before Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Or wait, no, next weekend is Memorial Day.
Yeah, it's Memorial Day weekend next weekend. I don't know, Julia. Pam goes, Don's always eating. Oh, guess what? So I have a raven nesting in a tree just north or just west of my driveway, about 15 feet. And he's huge. Oh my gosh, huge. And or she, they are huge. And they are currently, we're watching them bring different things for their nest, and that's awesome. Awesome. I think it's great. Yes. I do.
So you were talking about Christians and how if they're not.
Are you even on?
Yeah, I should be.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, it's just we're far away. You were talking about Christians and how, why would they be scared if they're, and Lucky said it, I guess, in the thing, but why would they be scared if they're strong in their faith?
Right.
And that's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it says don't be fearful of these other other peoples.
Well, a lot of times it seems like people, are afraid of that which they don't understand or they don't know. Fear of the unknown causes hate.
Yes.
And so if someone is afraid, it's because they've got this stylized image or this archetype, if you will, that's stuck in their head as far as, what something should be. So maybe they grew up thinking that, certain things are absolute, that pagans are, or witches are evil, because, the Bible says witches are evil. There's one line in there is repeated too many times, is thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Right. Yeah. Okay, well, that doesn't mean you have to kill them all either. And so if that's something, the dogma, if you will, that you grew up with, that you're entrenched in, you're not going to see anything else. And it doesn't matter how much someone tries to educate you otherwise, until you are ready to open your eyes, you're not going to see it, or they're not going to see it. So Titan asked a question. Paisley, are there any constraints that pagans have? It would seem that the religious have constraints that they find necessary, and it could be a reason for judgment and jealousy. So here's the thing. I was doing some Googling before I called in, or before we started called in. So religion is often a pursuit or interest to which someone ascribes supreme importance, or the belief and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods, or a particular system of faith and worship. So I thought those are three interesting definitions. Oh, there's a crooked shelf.
Yeah. We'll just let Lucky work it out for now.
Okay.
It's actually the
There.
It's actually the camera.
Yeah, the camera's crooked. I can see it now.
It's gonky.
I keep tipping it right too. So there, I'll tip the same way as the shelf. Does that help?
You know, yes, you're right. But the thing is, though, is that if they're also fluent in their religion, anything that came before Christ is technically not viable. It's there for learning, to know what went before. And so they're not, if they're still living by the eye for an eye, you know, if they're still living by those rules and those constraints, they're
an
they've-
Old Testament Christian.
yeah, which is not correct. You're not a Christian. You don't believe in Christ at that point. You might as well be Jewish. Anyhow, so Christ said, you know, what's gone before is in the past. What I'm saying now is what you need to do. This is, you know, follow my example, not, you know, don't burn witches, you know. So, a lot. What are you doing? You're covering up the bookcase.
I'm covering up the shelf now.
Oh no. So, you know, a lot of people just they're not, they may be strong in their religion, they may be strong in their belief, but they're not strong in the sense of what.
Well, often religion and spirituality are confused.
Two separate things.
Very, very separate things. So the definition of spirituality is the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things.
Sorry, what?
So, spirituality is the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. So it's generally a broad concept with room for many perspectives. In general, it includes a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves, and it typically involves a search for meaning in life. As such, it is a universal human experience, something that touches us all.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's spirituality. That's not religion. So religion is a kind of, it takes spirituality and shoves it into a box.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't fit into that box because of dogma, or the dogma says you don't fit in that box, then you must not be the right religion. So dogma is a principle or set of beliefs laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big $30 word. And, you know, is dogma a negative word? Yes, it is. It's a bad word. So basically, often when it comes to, you know, someone is spiritual, someone who believes in something, that is often very spiritual. And so when it goes and becomes religion, that dogma defines, because the church, for instance, the Catholic Church, we'll go with Catholic Church because they've been around for a long time, and they, many Catholics see the Pope as the highest authority on the earth, period, end of sentence, and whatever he says goes.
A hologram. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And, hey, he's human. He's going to screw up. It's okay. He's just like the rest of us. But everybody assumes that he is the final...
Is God's voice on earth.
Yes. And
which would make him Christ.
Oh, not necessarily, just a prophet.
A prophet. Yeah. Profit.
Yeah, right. So, just when it comes to religion and such, be aware of what you're fighting in the conversation, because a lot of times you can't fight against somebody's dogma.
No.
You cannot argue against someone's dogma.
That's right.
Because dogma is the trenches. It is the foundation. It's the wall. It is the chains that keep people from learning and doing something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's really unfortunate because It suddenly becomes less spirituality or even religion, and it becomes a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object.
Wow, you slid right into that one.
Yes, I did. Which is also known as a cult.
Yes.
And it's a misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. Ooh. I'm going to have to open this article. The 7 signs that you're in a cult.
Oh, wow.
So we'll do that one after the break.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because that's good, actually. And we'll talk more about cults after the break. But yeah, often dogma will take something benevolent, such as spirituality, and turn it into something that is not like
Give it rules.
Give it rules and absolutism, and suddenly it is a cult. And it is just bloomin' frustrating. If you've ever just had a discussion with someone about politics, for instance, Democrats versus Republicans. Whoa, talk about some dogma there. Release the dogma. Seriously, it is horrible. It's because a lot of them are so absolute in their set of beliefs, their cult of that particular political group. And it really is a cult at that point, that they don't hear anything else. They don't see anything else. The chains have bound them onto that path, and they can't get past it. They can't see anything outside of that dogmatic box, which is really unfortunate because there is so much to be experienced outside of it. And you shouldn't paint yourself into that corner.
Right. Right. You also brought up, gosh, you brought up so many things. Oh, you were talking about, telling people to do research and, don't just, go with what you think there's stupidity and ignorance, and ignorance can be solved, The problem is as you did quite easily mention, that you've got to be particular on what you're reading. You've got to be careful not to get into the D&D stuff, and you have to be careful not to, end up in an RPG game forum, things like that. But the problem is that a lot of things that people find are from religious people, or written by religious people.
Yeah,
and that's another thing you have to be careful
There's
of.
A Christian-based platform that posts a lot of articles about paganism, and there's some interesting truth to it. But if you don't know that it is a Christian-based website, when you start reading, you suddenly go you're reading, oh, interesting, left turn.
Right.
What? And it's a little frustrating, so be aware of your sources. Don't be afraid to go to Wikipedia and go down and, what is paganism, and then go to their sightings, all the different websites that they've cited. Right. And a lot of those links in there will take you to good places where you can get that information then. And, if you're able to go online and put it into a forum and say, hey, listen, I'm looking for some information. Amino is actually a good place for that. You can find a lot of amino groups that'll give you some real basics or some place to start, because often they'll say, hey, well, maybe you should read this book first or that book first. And that's a good place. Or go to your library, go to a bookstore.
Right.
Because most bookstores these days are not religious based, they're just bookstores. And a lot of them have, if it's been written, they can find it for you. And, ask the owner of the bookstore, it's like, hey, listen, I have some questions and I want some real answers. Where do I go? Now, if it's a faith-based owner bookstore, often you may not be able to tell until you've talked to them a couple times. And you're like, well, son of a gun. That's not quite what I wanted. So, but, just there are forums. Often there are meetups in your community, and they may be listed in out of the way places like on the wall at the grocery store or the laundromat or in the liberal random media paper. Actually, most papers these days are liberal. But anyways, so like here locally we have a one called the Reader.
Yeah.
Huh? What are you doing?
I was trying to get you to not say that.
Okay. I don't know that anybody understood what I just said because
Anyhow.
But there's information in the back, or there's like in your free mags that might have, you know, whatever listings. There are often some sort of posts or listings that you may be able to find a meetup. Just again, be cautious, because if you're not paying attention and kind of doing your research, yeah, you can really get down the crooked path into a cult. And so that's why we're going to talk about cults after the break. So, what else did I say that you wanted to talk about that you remembered? Because I did say a lot of things.
You did, and well, you know, actually, those were the ones that stuck out in my head the most. I mean, I was driving down the road at the time, listening to YouTube, but you know, and that's it's just unfortunate that people still want to play those games about words, and as people have pointed out in chat, you know, the cherry picking. You know, if somebody gives me a quote from a verse in the Old Testament, I just shake my head and walk away.
Yeah.
Don't
the
do that
Bible.
to me.
So if you're going to believe in the Bible, from what I understand, it's not an a la carte menu.
Right. You don't get to pick and choose.
If you're saying, no, I fully believe in the Bible, I follow everything the Bible tells me, then why
are you not stoning that whore down the road?
You
You know.
were you a virgin when you got married? You know, so like, because yeah, that's anyway, that's a different topic. But no, it's you know, maybe it's a guideline rather than it's a guideline rather than an absolute. But still, if you're saying, no, I believe this and this and this, and it's like, well, is that New Testament or Old Testament? Because if that's Old Testament, then you totally missed the New Testament. Maybe you should go back and read it. And just stop only listening to the pastor on Sundays and assuming he knows what he's saying. Well, no, he's reading from a specific paragraph, and that's all he's doing. So, yeah. Just pay attention to where you're researching. Don't be afraid to research in multiple books. Ask questions.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter if it's Instagram or Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. All of them all have some sort of pagan or witchcraft type, you know, leads or rooms or availability or whatever. So you can also always ask me. It's wildepaisley@gmail.com. Hint, hint. wildepaisley@gmail.com. And then the call lines are open. I got to remember to say that once in a while because I forget. And it's 213-233-3998. Or if you're across the pond in the UK, 44203-393-2871. So, any other thoughts, Mr. Don? Because often you say something, it's like, oh, keep talking because, well, like we have 7 minutes before break. But so
I just think, you know, you talked about Wiccaphobia, which I think is absolutely hilarious.
I almost didn't talk about it because I wasn't sure that I could keep from laughing out of control.
That's fine, Farm. She'll see it later. She's answering you. Wiccaphobia. Okay, yeah.
Wiccaphobia.
You know, it's just, you know, so is there a Christophobia? You know, is there a Yahweh phobia? You know.
Yeah, I would think so. Are you afraid of churches? I mean,
only when they're burning, because I walked in them.
Whatever.
Make sure not to wear rubber soles on your way. You might have a better chance of living.
Right?
She turned me into a newt. I got
Yeah.
better.
So something else that is really good for you, educating yourself in general is just good. Don't be afraid to read the Bible. Don't be afraid to read the Quran. Or, or any of the other religious texts out there, because the more you read, the more you know. The more you know, the more you understand, in theory. The more you understand, the better you are able to communicate and connect with people from different walks of life, in theory. Or you may read one of those books and you just, I have to tell you, that sometimes I will read a book for a while and it's like, the BS meter is just going off and I just can't. I got to put it down, walk away. And I may come back later and pick it up again when I'm bored or there's absolutely nothing new to read in my world. So, yeah, it just, yeah. Educate yourself. I think that's the biggest thing.
Right.
Educate yourself. And listen when people are arguing with you or trying to say, no, my way is the only way. Listen to them with a loving heart. Meaning often they're afraid of something that you have just said.
Right.
And that fear may not be in the front of their mind. It may be something that's deep and in the background, and it may be so subconscious that they don't know what it is, or they don't even realize it's there. It's not like, oh, I'm afraid of spiders, because that one's real and often in your face. But it's, if you listen to hear what someone is saying, you're more likely to be able to respond in a way that, educates rather than, tries to just shout them down. Because the person who shouts the loudest is not the winner. It's the person who, receives the right message. That's the winner. The right communication. And so just listen and respond.
Well, and be discerning.
Mm-hmm.
Be discerning. There's one thing that I've always been told, take what you want, leave the rest.
Mm-hmm.
If something you don't agree with gets said, just acknowledge it and go, okay, yep, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because, I say listen and respond appropriately. Sometimes that response is to say nothing at all.
Sometimes.
Because there is a real time when you're talking to someone and it's like, wow, you have no connection to reality, and there is really not much that I can say that you're going to hear. Because you can both be saying the sky is blue, but they're so sure that you're saying the sky is green that they're not going to hear that you say, no, I just said the sky is blue.
Right.
And that's real. I've seen it, I've heard it, and I don't get it, Just listen as you can, respond as you can, and sometimes that best response is just nod your head in the right places to indicate that you're kind of listening.
Right. Do that faux listening.
And that's a real interesting thing that you're dealing with. Sounds like you're totally bought into it, but also at the same time, you're not really being as bought into their drama.
Hey, Titan, look up the phobia for common sense. Sorry.
There's a phobia for common sense?
Well, it probably is. Somebody who's afraid of common sense.
Oh, heavens to Betsy.
Apparently, Titan's looking them up, so we'll go with that. So, but anyhow.
I can't even.
But that's another thing is be discerning, use your common sense. If it doesn't make sense, you don't have to accept it.
Oh yeah.
You know?
You know, you're going to hear a lot of stuff. I may even say a lot of stuff that you think is like, wow, that's just the BS meter is way off the charts there. And that's fine. It is absolutely fine. Just be discerning in the message that you're receiving, and don't just buy it in large quantities.
Yeah, don't buy into it. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to. Like I said, take what you want, leave the rest.
Yep.
And if somebody wants to argue with you about it, just shake your head and walk away.
Yep.
You just do your.
Exactly. So, on that note, we're going to break, so we will see you in a couple minutes.
Oh, Lord, within the sun, as we will, so mote it be, the spell forever done.
Back to doing your show.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we're adventuring off into the spaces between. And I was told earlier by Lucky that I needed to find more music, and she wasn't joking. More music is definitely necessary. Yep. So, I hope y'all are having a good evening, day, morning, whatever time it is for you, because I know some of you are in other places. So, we had kind of glossed into talking about, I mentioned cult just before the break, or a bit before the break. And so, you know what? Let's, in doing my research and stuff, I came across an article, the 7 signs you're in a cult. And, Titan says that there's no phobia for common sense. However, there is anatidophobia.
Where a duck is watching you.
Is the fear that somewhere, somehow, a duck is watching you.
Oh, goodness.
Okay.
Squirrel.
All right. So there's a duck watching you. I'll remember that. So, anyways, this article is in The Atlantic. So theatlantic.com is the website. And so it was written by, I don't know who this is, Bose Harrington. And he's talking about an article or a list that the founder of IHOP did, Mike Bickle. And he has 7 ways to recognize the difference between a religious community and a cult. And you know what? You know, that's kind of a real thing. So, so the first one, opposing critical thinking. So if you are in a religious group that does not teach you or allow for you to do critical thinking, hold on, I'll pull it up. I'll get the official definition of critical. What is critical thinking? It is the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form judgment. It could be like the budget. I don't know, critical thinking. So basically, yeah, critical thinking. It's important. And let's see, the next one is isolating members and penalizing them for leaving.
Well, now, hold on.
Yeah?
Excuse me while I swallow my mouthful of food.
You're not on air. Well, you're on air.
Yeah, but...
Yeah,
Oh.
no one can see you eating pizza.
Oh, that's fine. You just said that if they discourage you from critical thinking, well, let's dive into that because it's pretty self-evident what they're trying to do. They don't want you thinking for yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so, therefore, whatever they say, they want to make sure you believe without question.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to, iron that out.
Yeah. I have a hard time not questioning things in general, which is part of the reason why I prefer being a pagan, because it's okay to question things here in this world. And Pharmacy Seeds wants to know where his pizza is.
Oh. This is leftover cardboard pizza, Carlton.
Yeah. So, yeah. So the next one, isolating members and penalizing them for leaving. I've never actually experienced this one myself, which I thought was interesting. But I guess isolating, if you stop and think about it, a burqa is a way of isolating someone. The woman's place is in the home. That's a way of isolating women. So far, I'm isolating women.
COVID-19.
Yeah, COVID-19. We're all being isolated right now, and being penalized for going places.
And we're not allowed to ask common sense questions that go against the status quo.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, there's that. So, all right. The next one is emphasizing special doctrines outside of Scripture. Okay, so I don't know how many of y'all have been to church, Christian church. About the Apostles' Creed and Nicene Creed. Are those in the Bible?
How about the Pearl of Great Price and the Book of Mormon?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Book of Mormon was written by a man. Supposedly, he had a vision of God in a cave while he was drunk one night.
Yep.
But then again, look at, I don't remember which one it is, but there's quite a few different, Jewish books
Mm-hmm.
that are hand in hand. But once again, let's go back to they don't believe that Christ was the Messiah. He was a teacher.
He was just another prophet.
He was just another rabbi,
Mm-hmm.
just another teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who followed him was wrong.
Yes.
So, but anyhow.
So, emphasize the special doctrines outside of Scripture. I mean, that's really Lutherans do it. Luther's small catechism is a thing that they use.
Catechism in general.
Yes, going back to that whole dogma thing. Let's see. The next one is seeking inappropriate loyalty to their elders. Boy,
Say that again.
seeking inappropriate loyalty to their elders. Yeah. If your church elders say that they must have sex with all the women in the church, that's not necessarily, that's more of a cult than a religious home. Yeah. Although you may be in a religious home at that point. So, doctrines outside of Scripture. Hello, the saints. You're praying to the saints. That's not in the Scripture at all.
No.
Speaking in tongues, technically,
Well,
depends. Are you Old Testament or New?
Old Testament.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, inappropriate loyalty to their elders. So if you're assuming that, oh no, my religious leader is 100% accurate all the time and is never wrong, then you may not be exactly loyal. You may be inappropriately loyal to your elder, your leaders there, because they screw up just like the rest of us. And they make mistakes.
They do.
Number 5, dishonoring the family unit.
Oh.
Yeah. That's a big one, actually. Define family unit. And dishonoring the family unit. What do you think on that one?
Define dishonor.
Okay.
Because if you come up in a house that's abusive, if you come up into a house that's derisive,
Mm-hmm.
if you are brought up in a house where I separate abuses. I separate abuses as physical and sexual and things like that.
Bring
I separate
shame
those things.
or disgrace upon,
Yes. Okay.
or fail to observe or respect.
Um,
If you don't respect the family unit, what's your definition of family?
well, but it comes right back to, were you disrespected as a member of that family unit by that family unit in whatever way that may come out? And I say you have no loyalty to someone who does that.
Mm-hmm.
You are released from that particular dogma,
Yep.
that particular teaching.
Yep. Hey, guess what? We have a caller.
Oh, okay.
So hold on. And this caller's only been on hold for 2 minutes. Ooh, it's Carlton.
Oh,
Hello, Seeds. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Paisley.
Which one do I touch to turn up?
I think it's number 12.
Hello.
Hi. how's
Okay,
it going?
okay, hold on. I'll get it.
So there's this technical board here with all these knobs and tabs and sliders, and I've been strictly told to not touch anything, which is funny because Don just sits across the room. He goes, "Oh, turn it up." It's like, WTF, man? Which one am I supposed to touch?
Well, Now I'm nervous because I'm going to have to learn that board at some point.
No, you don't have to have anything like what me and Brent have. If you want, I can give you some ideas on some simple things that you can do.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You don't. I've done the show on my phone while driving in the car.
That's true, and shame on you.
You're just jealous. So, anyways, what's up?
I would love some tips on that, but I don't want to take away from Paisley's show on that. We can talk about that outside of this. But Paisley, you bring up some awesome points about like the dogmas of religions in general.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are super conservative Christian, and they drove me to church every Sunday, multiple services every Sunday, plus Sunday school, plus Bible school, plus Bible studies, plus vacation Bible school, plus. And even this last summer, my daughter was up visiting with her fiance, and he's not from a super Christian, not from a very religious background at all. And my mom has been trying to like get them to get married and join the church and do this whole thing. And I made the mistake of voicing my opinion at dinner one night, and boy, did I ever get a rash of crap about it. So I know what you're talking about, and I share that frustration tremendously.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed Bible camp because it gave me a chance to get away from the house, and there was some fun in that, and the responsibilities there. But VBS is like, okay, all right, yeah.
Well, though, I mean, it's not their place to push their. As a matter of fact, it says, tell them about it, and if they don't want it, walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And, by rejecting it from the family unit is, of course, going to turn you into the black sheep. And that's just the way it is. Now, they're either going to accept it or they're not. It's on them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to believe the way they believe. You just you're expected to honor thy mother and father. And that's all you're supposed to do. However, as I brought up in just a few minutes ago, define what abuse is and what it all is,
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in that situation.
Well,
where I'm just like,
let's go back to honor thy mother and father. What is truly honoring them? Is it seeking truth and answers and love, or is it just repeating what they've told you to repeat?
Right.
Truth, answers, and love. If you're going to parrot back to them,
right.
Parroting is
right.
not respect. Parroting
right.
is not honoring. Parroting is just parrot.
Yeah, it's just verbal vomit.
Yeah, and we can all do that.
Big difference.
Right?
Big difference.
So,
and yes, I also share that. I'm sorry. I also share that sentiment about some of the Bible camps were actually a great chance to get away from home and an excellent opportunity of fellowship and having open conversation with others about religious and spiritual experiences. Not all of those experiences were bad for me, but many of them were very dogmatic from the church side of things.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's a complex conversation, but I think you guys are really hitting on all the excellent points. I hope that if there are people who are a little confused or frustrated, that maybe this will help them understand and perceive things in a better way.
Right.
Absolutely. And someone who's trying to help you learn more about what your path is or help you find answers should refer you to someone who can answer those questions. Because I've spoken to people who have said, XYZ, it's like, well, that sounds more like a Christian type question. Is that what you're trying to get answers on? And they're like, well, yeah, kind of. It's like, well, then you really need to talk to someone who's a Christian to get those answers, possibly a pastor or a priest or something, because that's not me. I'm not that person for you. So I'm not the right person to ask those questions. I can tell you where to go. I'll tell you where to go. But I'm not going to have those answers. But if you want to ask me something about being a pagan or being a witch, that's something else entirely. But even then, I'm going to there's a good chance I'm going to refer you to some reading material or some other things, because I want people to learn more, not just more knowledge, but more about themselves. And I think that learning more about yourself fights dogma too. Because, there's no reason to force two people to get married just because they're seeing each other. If that was the case, there's a lot of barflies that should be married.
Learning about yourself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, learning about yourself actually builds your spirituality if you use it that way. It actually helps you become more spiritual, more understanding. And I still like a lot of the Christian values that Jesus taught are excellent. Do unto others as you would yourself. That is such an awesome golden rule. You can never go wrong doing that. But man, I see a lot of distortions in the name of institution, and that really frustrates me. It really actually ticks me off.
Yeah.
Well, for lots of reasons.
It's funny, because people make their perceptions based on what they see of you, not what they experience of you. And you mentioned last night, or I think it was last night in chat, you said death metal really grates on you, and you can't sync with it. That's fine, and I understand that. Unfortunately, I listen to a lot of death metal and a lot of extreme metal, so I pulled outside of work today, and I get out of my car, and I'm standing outside my car, and the car is just, it's not blaring, but it's rocking pretty good. But people look over at me, and they're like, what the hell? It's like, okay, whatever. So I do my thing, and I close my door, and it's funny because I work with the public, and it's like people look at you differently because they judged you on what you listen to. But everybody that I come in contact with, I put on a facade. I really am quite a bit of I really am quite misanthropic with people. I don't trust people. I don't generally like people, but because of what I do, I put on the face, and I make sure that I am pleasant to everybody that I come in contact with. And a lot of people go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you listen to that music. How are you not a violent person? And it's like, that's not what the music is. That's not what it is. There's a lot of violence. A lot of time there's a lot of violence and a lot of things like that. But why are you questioning me now when you think of me in a good way 99% of the time, and you find out one thing about me and it colors your perceptions of me? I'm not a bad guy.
I've experienced that a lot too, Don.
Yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily for music, but same concept.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Anything. You could be sitting at a bar and having a drink, and somebody walks in and goes, oh, "I would have never guessed." Well, big flippin' deal. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be just that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's just amazing. So.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
So I stumbled across a channel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was agreeing with y'all.
I was just going to say. So I stumbled across a channel on YouTube, a guy named Aaron Abke, and he talks about the law of one, and he's got a whole series on the law of one. And he too grew up in a conservative Christian household, and then broke away from that and went on his own spiritual journey. And man, he really goes into some really interesting stuff. So if people are seeking answers, that's another great source to check out. And that kind of resonated with me. I won't go into all of it here, but I think it's a good resource, and I think you guys are helping open minds. I think that's awesome.
Well,
And I have the same thing with that. They see you do one thing, or they find out that you like one thing, and they take it wrong. And I think it goes back to that, we're each living our own experience, and each person associates a different meaning to their experience.
Mhm.
So, like, you might find heavy metal to be soothing, and I find it to be grating. But, you know, I might like Mozart, and you might find that irritating.
Right.
So, you know, it's each person's experience is such a critical part of that.
Yeah, I'm a pretty eclectic person when it comes to my music, for instance. Just, I'll listen to almost anything. The death metal kind of grates on me because it's
Me too.
not my gig, but that's okay. But it doesn't mean I haven't been to some odd concerts. Just in the interests of, well, if
Yeah,
I
same.
don't experience it, then I can't really have an opinion on it, right? Or a real opinion. I mean, I
Nope.
can have an opinion, but it doesn't have as much value. But anyways, so, you know, just, you know, you gotta experience some things
Right.
before you really
Right.
say that. No, that's horrible. You have to experience it. But no, I think you guys are right. It's the mask like Don wears. You know, it's kind of a mask. People judge him based upon whom he is in a given setting. I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
I've actually gotten kind of a kick out of that in more recent years of people, like, you know, assuming one thing or another about you, and then, you know, I don't even correct them anymore. I don't try to, like, make a point about anything. I let them think what they think.
Right.
And then over time, when they interact with me again later on, they find out more about me and they realize I'm a deeper person than that. And sometimes I think that cracks their mind open better than trying to argue with them.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes if you just give someone the benefit of your time to listen to whatever their soapbox is, they're going to be a little bit more open-minded when you say something else. And you disagree with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yep.
Sometimes.
Yeah. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, accept people for what they are. Don't pass judgment on their decisions. You know, use your experience to judge your past actions and improve your future actions.
Yes.
And try to, you know, share a message of love with people. And I think that resonates with people, and it breaks down walls and borders pretty quick.
Right.
It really does. Yeah, be authentic to yourself. That, I think, is
Right
is
on.
huge. You know, if you can't be the most authentic you with yourself, how can you be that way with another person or another group of people? And I would rather be around the hippy dippy broad that is just out there in la la land than someone who's being fake.
Right. True enough. True enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Same here. I'd way rather be around somebody I don't like who's authentic than somebody I do like who's just a fake and that's not really who I'm hanging out with.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. And we all know them. They're everywhere, and they reproduce.
They sure are. They do. That's the scary part. And they fool you when they walk upright.
Is it a squatch?
It could be. I don't know.
Oh man.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, thank you very much, Carlton. Any other thoughts to impart? Any other wisdom?
No. I think I've exhausted my brain hole for now.
Sure.
Thanks for sharing, guys, and I'll be listening and chatting.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, bud.
Have a good night.
Seeds. Just the Aether Archives at gmail.com. Aether Archives, just like my screen name.
Awesome. I will get in touch with you as well. And
Yep.
Paisley, I haven't forgotten you. I've just been busy.
I
will email you
understand. I had a family thing today. I get it.
Good night, Naysay.
All
And Carlton, too.
right. Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys. Yep.
I like him.
Yeah. They just, good night, Naysay. Oh, good night, Carlton.
Well, Naysay
Good night, John
said
Boy.
good night. Not
So-
Mary Ellen.
All right, so Neil mentioned something
Yes.
here, and it seems like we're spending a lot of time talking about Christians, and we do occasionally. I try not to, but Christianity is the thing I know more outside of
Right.
paganism, and so it's really kind of a low hanging fruit, if you will.
And plus, we grew up in a Christian quote unquote Christian nation,
Yeah.
we don't know, we haven't been exposed, I should say, to Judaism, true Judaism,
Mm-hmm.
and Islam, and
Mm-hmm.
even Zostfarian, any of those, those are
Yeah.
things that But
Or either in more populated places, because remember, we are in North Idaho. We're
Right.
backwards here. Um, but
but we are learning more,
Mhm.
as the world comes together, and we're learning that there are some good things and there are some bad things about
Mhm.
each of these different faiths.
Mhm.
And so until we fully can understand or have a grasp of those others, there's not much else that we can really compare to or contrast with. However, I will say that what I know about some other religions, they're on that block too.
Mhm.
They're right there with them. And unfortunately, I see it's more people who are religious. Oh, break time!
Yeah, we'll pick that up in a few minutes. I promise.
Brothers of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me the songs of Mother Goddess and the Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are adventuring off into the spaces between. And the call line is open, so if you want to call, absolutely. Be like seeds and call in. That number is 213-233-3998. Or if you're across the pond in the UK, it's 44203-393-2871. So we were talking about cults, and they're not just Christian cults. There's cults of several different flavors and varieties. And so this one, this particular author of this list just talked about Christianity a lot. So the next one is crossing biblical boundaries of behavior versus sexual purity and personal ownership. And I think this is not just biblical, but I think it could be any religious text could fit in there. Think of the Mormons, for instance. A lot of them are 100%, they're polygamist.
Okay, so but you have to break Mormons and LDS apart, though, because LDS, there's something in their particular writings that say, at some point it says follow the laws of man, as long as they're not, unethical, immoral, and one of the laws of man is, in America, generally, there's one wife and one husband, not many. So therefore, there's like, and we even see it in Judaism too. There's kind of a new Jewish movement within the Jewish community, the Jewish religion, and the old Jewish guard. So we see it everywhere. So you've got to break Mormon and LDS apart and see who's, because there's extremes in everybody, and I thoroughly believe that each religion has a hit squad too, but, so you've got to break those apart. So to say that Mormons are polygamists isn't quite correct unless you break apart Mormonism and LDS.
Yeah, and they are two different groups, anyways. But yes, that whole biblical boundaries of behavior.
Right.
Each of the religions have their own code of ethics, their own list of do this, don't do that, kind of a thing. Whether it's the 10 Commandments or whatever else, and so that the sexual purity, the personal ownership. I mean, there's the whole, people or older men marrying,
right,
young girls for a variety of reasons, and a lot of them are highly inappropriate according to today's society. So just you got to be aware. If there's something smells, there's probably a pile of poo somewhere. So just be aware. Do your research. Then last one here on this particular list is separation from the church. And like I said, this list was a Christian list, but it could be from the synagogue or any particular group, because there are extremists, like as Don mentioned, in every religious religion, every single one of them, from Catholics to I can't even think now.
Jehovah's
Witnesses, yeah.
Mormons, LDS, Seventh-day Adventist,
Islam,
Islam, Judaism,
Church of England.
Right.
You stop and think about that, the whole British Isles and all the mess they went through in the 80s and everything.
Oh, they know it's been going on for centuries.
Well, yeah, but growing up, I heard about the stuff in the 80s more often than not. But yeah, so there's those extreme groups in every single, or extreme factions, I should say,
Right.
in every single religion. So, and they may not really be, they may put on the garb. They may be the Sunday go to meeting Christians,
Right.
but Monday morning they're part of the mob. It's
Right.
Mob and a lot of Catholic beliefs really, I wouldn't assume go hand in hand, but
Like I just said, I believe religions have their own hit squads.
so yeah, there's, I don't know. So yeah, there's all of that. But so those extreme groups, those extreme factions, often have a barely tangible connection to whatever the church is, or the mainstream belief set. Because there's a lot of people who say, yeah, the mob and Catholicism. That's one.
It's one possible.
Yeah, one possible faction, if you will. Then there's the Protestant. What was it going on with the whole British Isles? It was Protestant.
You've got to break apart the Church of England and the Catholics, and then you have to break apart the Protestants and the Catholics in Ireland.
So yeah, those all are different factions, and yes, some of them had real hit squads with
Yes.
big bombs. So and then there's the Islam is an entirely different
And
kettle of fish.
They have extremes in there. You've got Kurds and Sunnis, and
Yeah, the different tribes, and everybody's got a slightly different belief set. So yeah, having the different denominations in Christianity, yes, some of them are going to have different extreme factions in there also. We've seen them, we've heard about them. We just don't hear about them very much in today's society
we don't hear about
because they're not in the big headlines.
well, they are. I mean, ISIS is an extreme,
Yes.
extremist faction.
Well, I was just talking about the Christians ones in the U.S.
Oh, well, yeah.
We hear more about the politicians than we do.
Well, that's because of religious freedoms. As long as it's an accepted norm.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, just be aware if you become part of a study group in your chosen religion, make sure it's still sticking with the mainstream. It's not just taking a right turn at Albuquerque. And it's just be aware, educate yourself. It goes back to education. If you educate yourself, in theory, you're less likely to be sucked into a cult.
Right.
But a lot of times those cults are led by
Charismatics.
very charismatic people. Very charismatic people. And they draw followers like the Branch Davidians, for one.
Oh, my God.
And then there's the
Just
Hale Bop people. Who are,
Heaven's Gate.
yeah, Heaven's Gate, Then I'm tired. I went to a pool. I told you guys that at the very beginning. My eyes hurt. What's his name with the Kool-Aid down south?
John Jones.
James Jones.
James Jones.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's yeah. That's just there's all of those different extremist factions. At one point, they were able to tap into the mainstreams just a little bit more. And so people were more willing to follow them, and then suddenly they have the right turn at Albuquerque, and
the thing is, though, is the more charismatic you are, let's face it, Hitler was very charismatic, and people followed him because of that, and there's a lot of people that just followed him because it was their job. Let's say
it was easier.
Not necessarily. I mean, the German army did what they were told. They weren't Nazis per se. they weren't Nazis per se. They were doing what they were told to do. Now, does that make it right? No, not necessarily. However, when it came to the horrendous acts, those were Nazis. Those were Reich. Those were, the SS. Those were the Gestapo. That's what those people were. But the average German soldier was just an average German soldier
Mm-hmm.
doing what they felt was right for the fatherland in this case. So, so you've got to be careful when you come across the charismatic, because they have
That gift of speech.
tongues, because that's the whole thing. The gift of tongues is to speak to your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that and I've spoke about my beliefs on speaking in tongues many times.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that if they can figure out who you are, they can speak directly to your heart, and they can turn you. Anyhow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's something else. That's something else. So yeah, is a gift or a curse, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yes, Lucky. Absolutely. That's a good point. So,
What's
sorry.
that?
Oh, well, it's in reference to the German soldier.
Mm-hmm.
She says, right, they were people who were economically destroyed and then suddenly lost jobs, food, and pride. They had nothing left, basically,
Mm-hmm.
except to do their job.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, what a horrible spot to be in.
Gee, does that seem familiar?
You mean like so many people in the U.S. right now are jobless?
Yeah. Anyhow, yes, we've kind of picked on Christianity, but like I said, there are other religions, other faiths, other, factions that, have their own dogmas, and they have their own views of other faiths and spirituality and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, even pagans, for the most part. I mean, it's like you I wouldn't say that pagans are opposite or, opposite Christians, because that's not true.
No, pagans and
Because-
Christianity often have a lot of parallels and
Yes.
and things in common, but more like the black sheep, the
But
stepchild.
see, it's just another tradition. It's another faith.
Mm-hmm.
So it
And there
falls,
are
they're peers.
Christian witches.
Right, true enough. But my point is this: you can't say they're related in the sense of they're opposites of each other, because they're not. Because Satanism, Luciferianism, things like that. But once again, the average pagan doesn't believe in necessarily God, the Christian God. Therefore, they don't necessarily believe in the Christian Satan either. And Lucifer as defined in the Bible. So.
Yes. So, Seed says that's what discernment is for, Don,
Right.
to know what is true and what is not.
Right, but
So-
like I said, though, you get those charismatics that'll speak to your heart
Mhm.
after they figured you out. They're
Yeah.
psychopaths.
Yeah.
They're friggin' psychopaths. That's what psychopaths do.
So, but yes. Anyways, we've kind of gone all
Yeah,
sorts
we
down this
kinda
rabbit hole and
Squirreled right out of that one.
yep, all over the place.
So, but getting back to naysayers,
So yeah, naysayers. So naysayers are those that really, in my mind, say witchcraft isn't real.
right.
Why are you believing in paganism? Why are you a pagan? Because those aren't real gods.
Was not satisfied with the explanations we were getting when we were asking the questions,
Mhm.
then we're not allowed to ask, because they don't want you using critical thinking. They don't want you to use common sense. I look at so many people
Mhm.
and go, does that even make sense? And they're like, well, that's what we believe. Well, that's what you've been told to believe.
Mhm.
Why don't you apply some critical thinking?
Yeah, so there is a lot of naysaying. It's like, well, people say, "Oh, so you're a witch?" I go, "Well, yeah." Well, do you ride a broom? It's like, no, I don't need to ride a broom to get my drug high. Thanks. It's I do have a broom, but not for that reason. So it was.
You have a couple.
Yeah, I do have a couple brooms. For a couple of reasons, but not for the drug purposes that they were used back in once upon a time, because there are other ways to imbibe now. But I don't. I don't know. It's hard for me because even when I tried to walk the Christian path, I still felt that paganism was real. I've never thought that paganism wasn't a real thing, or witches weren't a real thing. And I don't have to see, the hocus pocus of it. Harry Potter, yeah, in some ways brought witchcraft mainstream and made it pretty much okay and more accepting. At the same time, there is no spell to straighten hair. You have to use a hot iron, which I suppose could be magic for those who don't know or have never used. So yeah, but yeah, it's when someone just blatantly gets in your face and says, "You can't believe that because that's not real." It's like, well, you know what? I don't think that what you're doing or what you say is real either, so I'm not going to believe the way you do. And generally speaking, just say, we have to agree to disagree. And if they try to shut you down or something like, because they will.
Or they'll pray for you.
Well, and I'm just talking in general, not even just Christians, but just in general. Because there's another cult out of Minnesota that, seriously, the headquarters of the cult is in Minnesota. I don't remember what they're called.
I don't know that one.
I don't remember. But anyways, it's like, really, your headquarters is in Minnesota? Of all places. But it's just, when people are saying that what you believe cannot possibly be real, then stop and think about it. And are they really saying that what you believe isn't real, or are they saying that I
don't believe the way you do, so therefore what you say is not real?
Or are they saying that I'm not 100% on my own faith, and so nobody else, I'm afraid of someone else being firm in their own faith or their own beliefs? Because there is a lot of that. People are often insecure and unsure of what they are looking for, or what they feel, or what they believe, and that's really common, I think, in today's society. I think that's a lot of insecurities that our society has.
And that's what's led us down this path.
Absolutely. And so just when people are saying, you can't believe that because it's not real, again, goes back to listen with a loving heart. And often it's an interesting conversation starts. It's like, well, why do you feel that way? Or what about me having my own beliefs makes you say it's not real? Are you saying I'm not real? But be careful the questions you ask, because they can be very argumentative. But it is a potential for a real conversation with someone when they say that your beliefs aren't real. Regardless of what you believe. It doesn't matter if you're a pagan or a Christian or a Muslim or Jewish or anything else. The flying spaghetti monster, for crying out loud. If someone's saying that you can't believe that because it's not real, it's an opportunity for discussion and education. But yeah, keep it from an argumentative point of view.
Right. Keep it a discussion.
And Neil, generally, we do go down the rabbit hole and talk about some things that are not 100% pagan, in part because this is actually a pagan deal that I've had to deal with. And people, coming at me, well, it's just a cult, or it's not real, or you're going to hell because you believe in the devil. It's like, wait, what?
Wow.
Yeah, well, yeah, hell with one L. Um, because in and that's those are Christian conventions, and it's not really my thing. Um, so just there's it is important to pagans to stop and think about this stuff too, because um, we need to remember that we need to kind of take a step back and still listen with that loving heart.
Were you talking about Westboro Baptist?
No, but those do fall into that whole.
They do, yeah. I
Yeah,
agree.
they're that's a cult. Oof. There's a special place in Hell for them.
Well, as long as they believe it.
Shh. There's some crazy would talk about people who give people a bad name. So yeah, they give Baptists a bad name. Plah.
I could speak to that, but I'm not going to.
Right. So I've met some very nice Baptists. Thank you very much. They're all over the place. So
and that's real quick. That's something that needs to be remembered too. There are those who are firm in their faith, and they actually mean what they say. There's the Sunday go to church, and then there's the we live by our understanding of what we believe is the truth. And as long as they are secure and they're not condemning someone else, and just going through the motions of being Christian. And actually being Christian, those people there's nothing wrong with them, but it's those talking heads, those I can't remember the term I was trying to think of, but there are the ones that aren't any good.
Yeah. So Elaine, I cannot believe that a Catholic told you that. You can't. Okay, so there's a point in the Bible where Jesus approaches. There's a synagogue or a temple at that point, and he went through, and all the money handlers and lenders and the people with the stuff on the tables and everything went through and basically went through and told them that they were just wrong and knocked everybody's tables over and beat them off the steps and that kind of thing. And basically, the reason why is they were there to help people buy their way into heaven. That was the whole thought process at that point. And there is still a lot of people that think they can negotiate or buy their way into heaven by doing good works or by giving something to God or offering something to God. And that was an interesting way for a Catholic to say that, because I've never heard something like that, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And it's not so much what you're not offering your children to God. Often it's yourself. I mean, if that was the case, then what about all those priests that can't get married to have kids? I know, right? And I could see somebody saying something like that because they are giving lip service. That's what I was trying to remember. They're lip service, and they, once again, it comes down to not being secure in their own beliefs, and therefore they think that they have the right to condemn and cajole, and it's not. You're not bargaining.
Yeah, you don't have to have kids to go to heaven.
No.
And there's a million reasons why you may or may not have kids. And one of them may be just you chose not to have kids. And you know what? That's a choice. It's just the way it is. And
yep.
The thing there is those are one of the people you just wash your hands of and say, you know what? You're not really Christian.
Yeah. Exactly. That would be the knee-jerk response, which it's a little bit more argumentative, I suppose, but
who's talking here?
Yeah. So anyways, just when you're conversing, don't be afraid to help educate people. Give them direction if you need to, or if they need it, or ask for direction. And it's listen with a loving heart, an open heart. Communicate means to listen to hear
Interesting.
rather than listen to speak. So what is it that people are really trying to say? If someone says, oh, this and this, well, are they really saying the words that they're saying, or what's the underlying meaning? So we're just about done for the night. Can you believe
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
2 hours goes by really fast.
It does. It does.
When I first started this, I thought an hour, OMG, how am I going to fill up an hour? And now we get to 2 hours and I'm like, wow, I could keep going. But I'm not going to because I'm tired. Chlorine, ice, blah. So, yeah, fruit bowl and up in there.
Yeah, but you have to be married first.
Yeah. Well, Abraham wasn't married. He was hand-fasted.
And yeah, okay.
So, anyways, if you have any questions, you want to give me your
That's an
3
interesting
cents,
point.
send me an email at wildepaisley@gmail.com. Otherwise, have a good night, all. Thanks for joining, and I hope you guys have a lovely week. And merry meet and merry part.
Good night.
Merry meet again.
Sun, as we will, so mote it be the spell forever done.